Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. 12 years of marriage, 12 years of shared life. Jokes, laughter, familiar routines, arguments, makeups, and dreams of an unbreakable future. I believed I knew everything about Amelia. I knew her little quirks, the way she'd laugh softly when she was truly happy, and how she'd chew on her lip when deep in thought. I was certain we could finish each other's sentences. But now I see I knew nothing at all. People can hide behind a facade so convincingly that even those closest to them are deceived. Her infidelity wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate act. Her lover was Leo, a man I once considered my best friend. It's hard to believe how easily trust can shatter. If you leave an opening, betrayal will find its way in. I'm an officer with the Hillside Police Department. I was scheduled to work that night, but I told my captain, a man with the emotional range of a brick wall, that I needed a personal day. To my surprise, he gave a short nod of understanding. "Take care of your business," he said. "Just don't make a scene." So I waited. I sat there in the dark, anticipating the arrival of the two people I trusted most, watching them enter the home I'd paid for to enact their deceit under my own roof. The jingle of keys in the lock startled me from my daze. The door swung open, and they came in. Amelia's high, grating laugh, already slurred with drink, filled the space, followed by Leo's loud, overconfident voice, painfully familiar. "It's pitch black in here," Amelia mumbled, stifling a giggle. "We don't need the lights, babe," Leo replied, his voice laced with a bravado fueled by either alcohol or a complete lack of self-preservation. From the shadows, I watched their silhouettes merge as they started to kiss. I'd already known about their affair, but the reality of it hit me now, a cold shock to my senses. Amelia's low, seductive moan was a sound I hadn't heard in years. "We should have gone to your hotel," she whispered. "My husband, Alex, will be back at midnight, and we're running out of time." "We'll make up for it tomorrow night," Leo said in the same cocky tone, as if his presence in my house gave him some right. "I'll be quick, don't worry." "Get something to drink first," Amelia suggested, playfully pushing him toward the kitchen. "I'll go on up." I stayed motionless in the darkness. Leo fumbled his way toward the fridge, cursing under his breath as he tried to find the light switch. I almost laughed out loud. He eventually located the door, pulled out a bottle of wine, and called out, "Amelia, where are the glasses?" "Top cabinet to the right of the dishwasher," she answered cheerfully, as if nothing in her life had changed. Leo poured the wine and took the glasses, heading for the stairs. At that moment, Amelia started down from upstairs, illuminated by the dim light from the hall. She was wearing translucent black lingerie I'd never seen before. It was clearly not for me. The sight of her in it triggered a reaction inside me that wasn't just rage, but something colder, a ruthless, unbridled fury. Leo, watching Amelia with a smug look in his eyes, had no idea I'd already moved. The baton hidden behind a side cabinet felt familiar in my hand, my every move honed by years of police training. In one swift motion, I flicked the switch, and a harsh, glaring light flooded the room. "I hope I'm not interrupting," I said, my voice almost flat. Amelia gasped, a high, piercing sound, and crossed her arms over her chest, suddenly appearing ashamed. Leo froze, the wine glass slipping from his grasp and shattering on the floor. "Alex," Amelia wheezed, her eyes wide with disbelief. Leo turned slowly, his face drained of all color. "Jesus, man, My baton struck his knee, and he collapsed to the floor with a scream. The thud made him howl as he clutched his leg. His face contorted in a mix of pain and horror. I stepped over his body, still holding the baton, and looked at Amelia. She was backing away toward the stairs, trembling, clutching the thin fabric of her lingerie as if it could protect her from the consequences of her actions. "Alex," she breathed, her voice shaking. "Please, let me explain." "Explain?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice even as fury seeped into every syllable. "Do you honestly think there's an explanation that could justify this? For God's sake, Amelia, I'm dying to hear it. Tell me." She fell silent, glancing at Leo, who was squirming on the floor, sniffling through a bloody nose, trying to sit up. He managed to say, his mouth twisting. I crouched down, bringing my face close to his. "Don't bother, Leo," I hissed. "If you dare to lie and say things aren't what they seem, I swear the next one will be your other leg." He flinched, holding up his hands in surrender, and mumbled, "Alex, please." Amelia took a desperate step forward. "It's not what you think it is. It's—" "Don't use that cliché phrase," I interrupted, the metallic coldness of my voice echoing. "If I hear it again, I'll lose my temper." She froze, her lips trembling. "You know," I continued, my voice softer but still venomous, You two have been meeting for 3 years, 3 times a year on business trips that just happen to coincide with my shifts. That's not a coincidence. That's deliberate deception. Amelia's jaw dropped, and Leo, still gripping his knee, looked like he wanted to disappear. Yeah, I know all about it, I said, pacing the room. And thanks to your buddy, Leo, who's as careless with his phone as he is with his loyalty. The texts, the meetings, even the cute nickname you gave him, Johnny. Amelia's face paled instantly. Leo mumbled something, a weak protest, but my glare silenced him. You know what this is about? I squatted down again. You're lucky I put my gun in the safe today, or this conversation wouldn't be happening. You'd both be dead. Leo's eyes widened in terror. Alex, well, he started, but didn't finish as I swung the baton, hitting the floor right next to his head. He flinched, his eyes instinctively shutting. Well, what? I snarled. You mean you didn't plan it this way? You just got carried away? Tell that to someone capable of empathy. I spat, letting them know I didn't care about their excuses. Stop it, Alex, Amelia pleaded on the verge of tears. It's all my fault. Don't hurt him anymore, please. Your fault, you say? I turned to her, raising my voice for the first time. Of course it's yours, but don't worry. I'm not just angry at you. Leo won't get away with it either. I told you there's always a price to pay for your choices. Congratulations. I smirked. You two have won the big prize today. I grabbed Leo's collar and dragged him to the center of the room. He tried to resist, but a quick blow to the ribs settled him down. I hovered over him, letting the silence hang like a suffocating blanket. You're a real piece of work, Leo, I muttered. You thought you could sneak into my house, sleep with my wife, and go back to your own wife like nothing happened? Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Wouldn't do anything about it? He tried to say something, but his bruised, swollen mouth made it impossible. I ignored him and turned to Amelia, who was sitting on the stairs, sobbing. And you, I said to her, did you believe this would stay a secret? That I'd never put 2 and 2 together? You didn't just betray me, you humiliated me. Do you have any idea how insulting that is? Alex, please, she sobbed, choking back tears. I'm so sorry. I truly am. Sorry? I repeated her words, a bitter grin on my face. Sorry doesn't change the facts. Your emails, your lies, and the fact that you admitted to him. I nodded toward Leo. That you'd never do for me what you willingly did for him. You were practically jumping for joy. She sobbed louder. And you know what's worse than the betrayal itself? I asked, looking her straight in the eye. Realizing that your marriage, our entire life together, meant nothing. You can't betray someone you truly love. Then I turned back to Leo and sat down next to him, staring with a cold, fixed gaze. And you, I hissed. If you think for 1 second about going to the police or trying to play the victim, I'll make you wish I'd killed you right now. Do you understand? He barely nodded, tears streaming down his swollen face. Good, I said, standing up. Now get out of my house. Leo tried to stand, but his leg gave way, and he grabbed the wall, leaving a bloody streak. He cast one last desperate look at Amelia, hoping she'd stand up for him, but she said nothing. Out, I shouted, pointing toward the door. He limped toward the exit, a trail of blood on the carpet. As his hand touched the doorknob, Leo stopped. Look, he said with difficulty. I could file a report on you. A beating is a beating, Alex. I couldn't hold back a dark, humorless laugh. Go ahead, Leo. Call the police. I'd be happy to explain to every cop in the county, and maybe half the state, why your face needed to be fixed. And I already warned you, but I've got something for your wife, too, Leo. A complete set of your correspondence with Amelia. You bet I will. I slowly lowered the baton, my eyes narrowed. I'll even deliver it all myself. Are you sure you want to play this game? His hand slipped from the doorknob, and with a short curse, he staggered toward his car. The engine roared to life, and a few seconds later he was gone. An oppressive silence fell over the house, broken only by Amelia's muffled sobs. I turned to her, still holding my baton, and she flinched, shrinking back. Come upstairs, I said calmly but without compromise. Take off those rags and go to bed. I don't want you in my sight tonight. She hesitated, her lips trembling. Alex, I cut her off. She jumped up and hurried upstairs, her sobs echoing in the empty corners of the house. For a while, I just stood there, staring at the mess. The broken glass, the blood on the carpet, the bitter stench of betrayal in the air. But I wasn't finished. The case was far from closed. The next day, I made a few calls. The first was to Samantha, Leo's wife. She answered on the second ring, her voice friendly and unsuspecting. Alex, hey, how's Amelia? Everything okay? Not really, I said calmly. We need to talk. There was a long pause on the phone. What's wrong? Samantha asked, her voice cautious. I'll be direct, I answered. Your husband and my wife have been having an affair for 3 years. The silence was deafening. For a moment, I thought she'd hung up, but then I heard her barely audible voice, a half-whisper. You're not kidding? Serious as a heart attack, I said evenly. I have all the proof, correspondence, dates, everything. I think you have a right to know. There was a choked gasp, a muffled sob. I don't even know what to say, she whispered. How long have you known about this? Long enough to think it through, I said. I'll send you the materials, and you can decide how to proceed. She thanked me, her voice trembling but with a newfound firmness. I explained that I intended to be thorough and ensure both cheaters felt the full consequences. Samantha agreed. In the days that followed, I put my plan into action. A simple conversation or a couple of bruises weren't enough. They had to feel the weight of what they'd done. For Amelia, the terms were clear. I insisted she get a full infection screening. It may have seemed paranoid, but after Leo's business trips, I wasn't taking any chances. I also forbade her from communicating with him in any way. No calls, texts, or meetings. And I had another idea, both cruel and mocking. Amelia was to help me find dates to revitalize my life. I had no intention of actually going on them. At first, Amelia refused, crying, begging, and accusing me of being cruel. But when I coldly reminded her that I could expose the details of her affair to her family, her friends, and everyone she knew, she reluctantly gave in. Meanwhile, Leo wasn't forgotten. With Samantha's help, I got his travel schedule. Every time he left on a business trip, I made sure to show up unexpectedly nearby. The first time was at a rundown motel in Nebraska. He came back from dinner, drunk, and didn't realize who was under the ski mask until I had him pinned against the wall. 3 punches, a knee to the groin, an elbow to the stomach, and a hook to the cheekbone. Then I found his car in the parking lot and slashed exactly 2 tires. 4 would be an insurance claim and 2 would be on him. He never reported it to the police. This pattern continued for months. A brief hit and run. A couple of bruises. Wounded pride. Leo, once so arrogant, became a pale imitation of his former self. Every time, I reminded him, you'll never know where or when I'll show up next, but I'll be there to make sure you pay for your betrayal. A year after that night, I sat in a chair, waiting for Amelia to come home from the store. The house was silent save for the low hum of the refrigerator. I'd switched to the day shift so I could be home more. Amelia hated it. She hated the constant control, the feeling that her life was dictated by my rules. But now she preferred not to complain. The front door opened, and she came in with several bags, placing them on the kitchen table. She began putting away groceries, chattering about how crowded the store was and how the cashier forgot her milk. Her voice sounded strained, the way people talk when they're trying to hide the fact that things are not okay. When she was done, I called her into the living room. Sit down, I said, gesturing to the couch. She hesitated before sitting, nervously adjusting her skirt. What's going on? She asked. I have something for you, I said, reaching for an envelope on the side table. A flicker of hope crossed her face. What is it? She asked, her voice slightly trembling. Read it, I said, handing her the envelope. She looked at me with apprehension before taking the papers. Her face went pale as she read the first line. Lawsuit for dissolution of marriage. What? She choked, as if in disbelief. What kind of joke is this? It's exactly what it says, I replied calmly. Her hands trembled, clutching the documents. After all I've been through, after everything I've done for you, this is how you thank me? You forced me to watch you go on these dates, and now all of a sudden you're filing for divorce. There were no dates, I stated flatly. She looked up. What? Those women? They didn't exist. No, Amelia, I explained. I made them up. Every profile, every message, all fake. You wrote to them, yes, but they were entirely made up. She looked at me as if I just punched her. Why would you do that? Why would you do that to me? To see if you would go all the way, I replied. And you did. You set me up with dates like you were working at a dating service. All because you hoped to save our marriage. Tears welled up in her eyes. But I was doing everything you wanted, she said, her voice trembling. I thought we were rebuilding trust. Rebuilding trust? I leaned forward, speaking calmly but firmly. Amelia, you kept a secret phone in your closet, hiding the charger behind shoeboxes. A phone with one single contact, Leo. She went white. Alex, I only kept it out of fear that you'd hurt him again. I didn't text him. Don't lie. I cut her off. I checked that phone. I know you kept it to continue communicating quietly, discreetly. You couldn't help yourself. She burst into tears, clutching the divorce papers to her chest. Please, Alex, I'm sorry. I'll stop. I'll do anything. Just give me one more chance. I leaned back in my chair, looking at her without emotion. No, Amelia, it's over. I own this house. I paid for it. You can't cover the mortgage on your librarian's salary. You'll get your share, your car, and your savings. End of story. That's not fair, she screamed. I deserve more. We've been together for 12 years. Actually, I said flatly, you deserve much less. But I'm being, you might say, magnanimous. I'll sue you, she shouted, tears streaming down her cheeks. Sue me? I grinned, my voice turning cold. And only then will I make sure everyone, your friends, family, and coworkers, know what you've done. I'll provide screenshots, photos, meeting schedules. I'll get you so dirty you'll never clean yourself up. Do you understand? She looked at me, her lips trembling, the defiance in her eyes fading, replaced by a defeated submission. A car horn sounded from the street. Your sister's here, I said, pointing to the door. Take the essentials for a few days. You can come back for the rest when I'm gone. Alex, she whispered, her voice breaking on a sigh. Get up, Amelia, and leave, I said, rising to my feet. I walked her to the porch and watched her put her things in her sister's car. Sarah gave me a strange look, a mix of pity and relief, as she helped Amelia carry her things. Half an hour later, their car was gone. I was alone in the empty house, and a deafening silence filled the air. For the first time in months, I felt something I had lost long ago: peace. Amelia and Leo had broken 2 marriages, but they hadn't broken me completely. It was time to start a new life, to reclaim what was mine all along. In the days that followed, the house felt muted without the usual sounds of a shared life. No more TV in the background, no humming from the kitchen, no scolding over the unemptied trash. Now, I was surrounded by only the quiet hum of the refrigerator, and strangely, I was beginning to enjoy the silence. I took a week's vacation to clear my head. Dividing the property turned out to be easier than I expected. Amelia didn't really fight the divorce, just nodded meekly as if she knew she'd lost the battle before it began. She moved in with her sister, Sarah, the only person I had told about the affair. Sarah was surprisingly reliable. She didn't gossip and let me get on with rebooting my life in peace. I made a few changes to the house. I turned the guest room, where I had been sleeping alone for a year, into my personal retreat. I hung up new posters, placed a comfortable chair by the window, added some houseplants, and shelved the books I'd been meaning to read for ages. It was a minor change, but now this room was entirely my own. For the first time in a long time, I was comfortable being alone, controlling my space and enjoying the quiet. The silence that once felt oppressive was now soothing. I was no longer suffocating in the chaos they had created. I could breathe fully again. I bought new, modern furniture and replaced the faded curtains with ones that let in lots of natural light. In the master bedroom, I did a full renovation. I threw out the old sheets, gave the mattress to charity, and repainted the walls a deep navy blue. The bed, tainted by Leo's presence, went to the dump. It wasn't just about getting rid of the physical reminders. I needed to reclaim the space that had always belonged to me. At the same time, I started seeing a psychologist. All those dates I was supposedly going on were actually sessions with a therapist named Karen. She helped me unravel the ball of rage and resentment lodged inside me. Revenge feels sweet, doesn't it? Karen asked me in one session. Yes, I admitted. But it's not enough. Exactly, she replied calmly. Retaliation only evens the score. It doesn't build a new foundation. That's when I realized I had to decide what I wanted my future to be. All I wanted now was a fresh start. I reached out to old friends I'd lost touch with. It turned out many of them had noticed things I hadn't. How distant Amelia was, how she always had excuses, how she was more interested in her phone than in conversation. You just didn't see the obvious, buddy, one of them said over a drink. But don't blame yourself. Love can be blinding. Love, a word that now felt alien to me. Yet I wasn't bitter about it anymore. One evening, I received a package from Samantha. Inside, there was a letter and a stack of executed divorce papers. Thank you for telling me the truth, the letter said. Even though it hurt, Leo and I are officially separated. I took the kids and moved out. It wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. I hope you're finding your way forward, too. At the bottom, she left a new address and phone number, adding, if you ever want to talk, I'm always here. I looked at that letter for a long time, tracing the words, contemplating how much my life had changed. Eventually, I sold the house, not because I couldn't stay there, but because I realized I didn't need that much space. I moved closer to work and rented a smaller, cozier place. Samantha and I started writing to each other, first occasionally, then more and more often. She was getting used to being a single mom, and I was relearning how to live alone. We had both been through similar experiences, joys and sorrows, absurdity and pain, but there was room for laughter in our conversations. As for Amelia and Leo, it didn't work out. Leo couldn't handle the loss of his reputation and his massive ego. And Amelia, if the rumors were true, was tormented by guilt. Perhaps it was real. Last I heard, Leo was trying to restore his standing, though Samantha seemed to be doing her best to prevent that. Amelia, for her part, stayed with her sister for a while and then moved to another town. The rumor was that she never got used to her new life, but I didn't feel sorry for her. We all make our own choices, and we all live with the consequences. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.